Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So let's go to the third image, which is you standing, again, it's like very monochromatic in a way, like it's black and white and grays and the color is in your skin ultimately. And you're standing outside of a door, which is, I guess, the office of Sea Shepherd. Now, is this in Canada or is this in another one of your cities?
It's probably in Vermont. We only have one office in the U.S.
In Vermont, of all places.
Yeah, that's where I live.
Oh, wow. Why Vermont of all places?
Well, it's a nice place to live up here in the mountains. Got good weather. You don't have to worry about forest fires, earthquakes, typhoons, hurricanes, whatever. So just where I happen to be. I can't go to Canada because I'm not allowed into Canada.
How do you feel about the tides of politics that, in a way, have turned Canada away from you when you are actually one of Canada's real greatest champions?
Canada does not like anybody that does what I do, including David Suzuki or Parley Mowat or anybody else. We're not very popular.
Mm-hmm. But you have a more welcome home in the U.S.?
Well, back in 1986, I had somebody from Revenue Canada came to me, and they stripped away Sea Shepherd's tax-deductible status. And for this reason, he said, "Are you opposed to the killing of seals on the East Coast?" I said, "Yes." "Are you aware that the Canadian government supports that?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Are you aware that that is now an uncharitable activity? You cannot disagree with the policies of the Canadian government to retain your tax status." And then he went through a few other things like that. And I figured, well, I can't, there's no longer an environment where I can actually work. So the U.S., we have a tax deductible status as we do in most other countries except Canada. So, I have more freedom to grow in the United States. I'd rather deal with the U.S. courts than the Canadian courts, but
okay.
That's just the reality of it. Canada also took the tax status away from Greenpeace. They tried to take the tax status away from David Suzuki Foundation. David actually had to resign from the foundation in order for them to keep that foundation because they said that David's speeches were political. So, the Canadian government is very, very oppressive when it comes to activists, and do so in a way that, again, like in Canada, you got such a wonderful government in Canada. That's because you don't live in Canada. That's what I always say.
The flip side of, I find, of the Canadian psyche is passive aggressiveness that, you don't really find in other places. And so I can totally understand why you'd say, well, at least I can do my thing in the U.S. within the limits of the law. Okay, well, that's shameful. That is totally shameful.
Well, it was Mordecai Richler one time who said that, if you want to make it as a Canadian, you better make it in England or the United States first, because nobody takes you seriously unless you do.
Okay, so you're a force to be reckoned with just in conversation. You're so sharp. And so what is your relationship at this point to Sea Shepherd?
Well, I think that used to be the case, but now we have a lot of leaders, a lot of captains who are good speakers, and that I still do most of the writing, really. But, again, it's delegating that over to as many people as possible. The CEO, I guess, of Sea Shepherd today is Alex Cornelissen, who is Captain Cornelissen, who's based in Amsterdam. Captain Peter Hammerstead is in charge of our African campaigns and our Latin American campaigns. So this is working out really quite well that way. And, there's no way that one person can actually manage all of this. And I certainly don't believe in micromanagement. So I think that the evolution of Sea Shepherd from an organization to a movement has worked out really well.
Mm-hmm. One half of the spirit of this podcast is the idea that every second is a gift. We are just voyagers on this incredible spaceship. You have a 15-year-old who looks and is thinking, okay, I want to do something. So what can you say to any of those people to say, okay, look, this is what you can actively do?
You find out what you're passionate about and then follow that passion by harnessing your skills and your ability to both the virtues of courage and imagination. Mm-hmm. You can change the age. In fact, younger people are probably far more passionate about these things. I mean, look what Greta Thunberg has been able to accomplish. Mm-hmm. will have an intuitive understanding. And what our educational systems do is they beat that intuition out of us. So what I say to young people, I don't tell young people anything. I try to encourage their intuition and their imagination.
Mm-hmm. With regard to marine ocean conservation, what would you say right now is a pressing concern?
Diminishment of species is far more of a threat than climate change. In fact, it's one of the contributors to climate change. And what we're seeing right now is a massive diminishment of species and ecosystems, marine ecosystems, and also a diminishment of species on land and terrestrial ecosystems. This is a cause for a lot of concern. The world is rapidly changing, and we're fabricating those changes through our behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, for instance, we're involved with this COVID-19 virus. And, since 1995, I've been predicting that this is going to get worse and worse. Because why do you have these emerging zoonotic transmission of viruses? Because of the destruction of ecosystems and the diminishment of species.
Mm-hmm.
And as these species are diminished, the viruses associated with those species need somewhere to go, and we're a very attractive host. So since 1995, you've seen the rise of Ebola and SARS and MERS and West Nile and Zika and AIDS and all these things like this, even before. And all of this is because of what we're doing to this planet. And now, added to zoonotic transmission of viruses, you've got emerging pathogens coming out of the permafrost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a couple of years ago, Siberia, 200,000 a year were killed by anthrax from a pathogen that emerged from the permafrost. We are creating a situation where we're rapidly becoming aliens on our own planet.
Mm-hmm.
That is, that this planet might not be able to support us, and we'll be walking around on the Earth with spacesuits.
Here's what's interesting to me is fundamentally what you're demanding is a balance between human behavior and our place within the biosphere as a part of it, as not as above or separate to it. So how often have you heard the accusation that you, Captain Paul Watson, are a deeply committed humanist, that one of your major concerns is to help humanity find its place, to get its act together?
Well, I'm just saying that unless human beings learn to live in harmony with all other species, that we're not going to survive. That basic laws of ecology, the law of diversity, the strength of an ecosystem lies within diversity within it, the law of interdependence, that all of those species are interdependent with each other, and the law of finite resources, that there's a limit to growth, a limit to carrying capacity. And what we're doing is we're stealing the carrying capacity from other species, which results in diminishment of both interdependence and diversity. And that's not going to lead to anything any world that we're going to be able to live in.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.